everybody, and welcome to the show. We are excited to be here today, as always, on this beautiful, beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Very excited because Charity's here. Charity Lynch, the only honest person in the entire GOP, the only one. All over the country. I've looked all over the country. I've checked. I did a poll. I checked on the back of cereal boxes. We've done everything. There's just nothing else. It's the only honest person. No, I'm kidding. There's probably at least two others. But anyways, Charity is here with us today. We are excited to chat with her. We've got all sorts of interesting things happening. Yeah, one of the things that's really crazy is we're at a point now where so much is happening that should be like massive breaking headlines that nobody even knows what to talk about. And I think Twitter is the current best barometer for what's important, what's right, what people care about in the news. And it's interesting because when I look at Twitter, we have a lot of days like today where there's a bunch of different things happening. And the stories are just all over the place. It's like no one can settle on a story. No one can settle on what they care. So, we've got the Wisconsin Supreme Court race coming up, which is a big one because they want to gerrymander Wisconsin and steal elections. We've got, stuff with AG Bondi. Bondi's talking about this and Bondi's talking about that. Actually, Bondi did something great the other day. You should see the response that came from the DOJ. It wasn't her, but one of the lawyers at the DOJ put out this wonderful response to this to one of the crooked judges out there that I got a huge boot out of. And it was an interesting thing. But we've all these different things happening. So when I looked at the show today, I was, well, what do I want to think about here? Well, the thing that I think is really interesting is the kind of undercurrent of everything, which all stems from DOGE, right? It all stems from Trump working to end the corruption, from him working to end the feeding trough that Washington has become, to really kind of cut the pork, right? This is foundational. We've got wars happening all over the world. We've got problems with everything you can imagine. We see illegal immigrants. We've got drug running. We've got just all this sorts of chaos. But foundational to all of it is the out of control spending and the fraud that's occurring from our federal government. DOGE started to expose that. And the deep state is, of course, fighting back as hard as they can with crooked judges and everything else. And so I kind of want to talk about this. And one of the things I think is really interesting to think about is, so we've got, trillions of dollars being spent on wars. We got all this money that we've been sending to these NGOs so that they can fund bringing illegals into our country. We've got all this money being sent to support destroying American family and American values through DEI and, pushing this kind of crap culture stuff. We have all these different things happening everywhere. What happens if Trump's successful and he permanently pulls the funding? What happens? What happens to the global machine? Now, you talk about remaking the world. We just saw yesterday, I just talked about the fact that Australia is talking about having an emergency meeting because we're not going to fund their freaking universities anymore. Are you kidding? What the hell? Why are we funding their universities anyways? So there's a lot of stuff happening. And we really got to look at what's behind it, what's going to happening, but also what impact the changes are going to have. So we're going to hit some of that today. We're going to hit a whole bunch of other things. But before I get to that, I do want to share one thing. So I have here on my handy dandy screen this graphic. Now this is from Elon Musk. And this is a pretty big deal. Maximally truth-seeking AI versus trained to lie and be politically correct AIs. Maybe. I'm not so sure, right? So if that's what Grok is doing, it ain't getting that right now. I'm going to tell you, it is absolutely not getting there right now. And in fact, I can tell you firsthand because I've been working a lot with Grok and testing a number of different things. And I've seen a number of instances where it either lies or just won't talk about things, right? This is a really, really big deal, right? Really, really big deal. And the idea that somehow, Grok has got this whole thing perfectly is just not correct. Frequently, if you ask Grok about anything related to COVID or the vaccines or anything, it feeds you the mainstream narrative, and you have to argue with it to get to the truth. That is, so we're not quite there. So, anyways, I love what Musk is doing generally, and I do actually like Grok, but it's a long ways from truth seeking. It's not there yet. So, anyways, before we get into the show any farther, please consider supporting us. Go to givesendgo.com/RensLaw, givesendgo.com/RensLaw. Support us there. Also, go to TomRens.com, www.tomrens.com. Now, you got to type that. You can't Google Tom Renz. You'll never find TomRens.com. But you go to TomRens.com, check out our shop, check out our affiliates. And we're today, make sure you check out Kirk Elliott, Precious Metals. Kirk comes on here. He's an economist. He's a brilliant guy. And he, of course, sells precious metals. If you don't have it in your portfolio, you need to. Make sure you're checking it out. Make sure you guys are reaching out. Talk to Kirk. Good dude. Great products. Great job. Great everything. And we're honored to have him as a sponsor. So also, while you're at TomRens.com, by the way, make sure you check out the link and get to the Freedom Brigades and support this lady. How you doing today, Charity?
Hey, Tom, how are you?
Oh, I am championing life today. We just win everywhere. That's all we do is win.
It's fun.
About that.
I just Googled Tom Renz to see what would come up. I just for the entertainment. I find that's to be funny.
Yeah. I'll bet you didn't find TomRens.com.
No, I didn't. That wasn't the first thing that popped up. I know that's a shock, but
yeah. I'm just saying that it may have been something like a hit piece from Seattle Times or LA Times or Washington Post or New York Times. Or,
yeah, it's just a bunch of crap, but it's funny.
Yeah.
If you Google me, you don't get hit pieces. So maybe I can strive to get to where you're at. That's how you know you're over the target, is when they attack you on a level that you Google their name and it's just crap that comes up. Maybe I can get there one day.
I'm winning.
You're winning.
I'm winning. I'm a champion of hit pieces. Anyways. All right. So here's what I got. And I'm gonna read this. This was a post from War Clandestine.
Okay.
He's an influencer on X. And I'm going to read this because I think it's really important. It's a little bit long, so everybody's going to have to bear with me. But I want you to hear. According to War, the more I read the JFK files, the more I'm convinced that 2020 was an organized regime change operation by the CIA and their subsidiaries. The release of C-19 was a socioeconomic sabotage via biological agent, just like Project Mongoose. It destroyed Trump's economy and gave the deep state a platform to launch their full-scale propaganda campaign to oust Trump in the election. The failing economy, loss of jobs, shutdown, etc., were all blamed on Trump, and it worked. Not to mention, he didn't say this, but the changes to the election law that allowed for election fraud.
Right.
Going back to his quote, then the CIA, USAID, Soros funded and orchestrated BLM riots in the Summer of Love while using Antifa as brown shirts to spread the violence and intimidation, similar to how the CIA did in Iran, Guatemala, and Chile during the Cold War, and how Soros did in Eastern Europe, Ukraine. All the violence and the chaos were blamed on Trump and his supporters for being racist, and it worked. Then J6 happened. And we later found out that it was far less violent than we were told. The CIA-controlled mainstream media blew the entire thing out of proportion, and they withheld countless hours of video showing the officers letting everyone in and walking around peacefully. Then we later found out that there were feds in the crowd and provocateurs that escalated the crowd into riot. In addition to Pelosi calling off security and refusing National Guard, then they tried to cover the whole thing up. J6 was an orchestrated event in order to prevent electors from challenging a stolen election. In addition, it gave their propaganda machine more fodder to demonize, censor Trump and his supporters under the new regime, allowing them to stifle any dissent on social media, pointing out that coup just happened. All of this was made possible by the near global control of the media and social media to push their propaganda and maintain their desired narratives. What we witnessed in 2020 was a CIA regime change playbook. The same tactics they used to overthrow leaders around the globe, they used on Trump. We are under attack from the enemy within. Trump tried to warn us about this enemy many times. So I agree. I agree with that, with everything War said there. Right.
Agreed.
I agree, and I was talking about it extensively.
Yeah.
Now
I've been saying we're at war. We have been infiltrated for years.
100%.
Yeah.
Here's the problem. So that this happened, we're talking about 2020, right? Fast forward, it's 2025. Who's gone to jail?
Right.
Which one of these people have gone to jail? Well,
Right.
does Nancy Pelosi go to jail? Did the people who were behind the planning of J6, did they go to jail? How about election fraud? Did we find anything or do anything about that? In fact,
Right.
not only did we not, but a bunch of good lawyers lost their licenses and are still being sued over it.
Right.
Tina Peters is in jail. Anybody? Tina Peters? Remember that lovely Gold Star mom that?
Every POW that they've had. Tina Peters is a POW. So is every J6er.
Yeah. What have we changed? What's improved? What's changed? What's gotten better? And the answer is nothing, honestly.
Well, we've stopped them from stealing the election, and we have an actual administration in place that's not a regime, because regimes, as you said, are installed. So
100%.
we have a president that's a patriot and trying to right this stuff. They have done so many things. It's taken him time to do one thing at a time to get it done. And he's actually doing like 12 things at a time. It's amazing.
100%. 100% agree with you. That said, who's in jail? Now, we fought our asses off to get Trump in. Yeah. We've all sacrificed. We've all did everything. But we still have no one in jail.
Yeah.
Now, Bondi did come out and say that they are, doing investigations and criminal investigations, and anybody that DOGE found complicit in this fraud, and all this stuff. So that's a big deal. I'm happy about that. I'm excited about that. And I'm not saying that there's not going to be, but I'm saying we got to move. We're now let's see. So Trump sworn in January 20th. We're now coming up on April. So February, March, we're now getting to April. So we're 60 days approaching the 90-day mark. What are we doing here? We've seen a lot happen, a lot of executive orders, a lot of things, and a lot of it's all being challenged in the courts with crooked judges, and we know that. But there's a lot of things that aren't being done. And particularly, there is nothing more important than the Department of Justice right now. The Department of Justice needs to be firing on all cylinders, and they're not. They're just not getting it done yet. Now, that's not to say they won't. And granted, Cash and Bondi didn't get in there right away, so it takes a little bit. And I understand that. But, we got to see some movement. And there's a couple things that I'm just not understanding. The number one is, why the hell is no one on the Epstein list in jail yet? It doesn't take that long to put a case together if you've got video of some guy sleeping with a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
I mean, if these files are what we all know they are, then, I mean, this isn't a complicated thing. If there's video of Bill Gates going to Epstein Island or going to Epstein this or Epstein that and doing inappropriate or illegal things, arrest the guy.
Well, Tom, I always say if 1 and 1 is equaling 5, you just don't have all the elements, because it will always add up when you have all the truth. So there are elements that we don't have. I don't know if somebody's being threatened. I don't know if they're in on it. I don't know what it is, but there is an element we don't have, because truth will always add up. Always.
We need a win.
We do need a win.
We, the people, need a win. It doesn't matter what that win is, but we need a win. And right now, there aren't any wins to be had. And right now, everything's kind of dead. Everything's
Yeah.
kind of I mean, we're just waiting. We got a bunch of nonsense happening, going back and forth between crooked courts and DOJ. But that can eat away the whole administration. If we're waiting for that to get done, it's not going to get done.
Right.
And there's too many crooked lawyers and crooked courts. So
Yeah.
what do we got to do to get a few wins? And some of this stuff isn't complicated, right? Take some of this low hanging fruit. Again, if you got video of Bill Gates, and we don't know if they do, but if you got
Sure.
video of Bill Gates, who seemed to be one of Epstein's best buddies, doing illegal or inappropriate things, put that dude in jail. It doesn't
Right.
take long. It's not hard. You got the video, you got everything you need. Put him in jail. That would be monumental for we the people.
Yeah.
That would be monumental for MAGA. George
Right.
Soros has done more to damage this country than any 5 people. Day one,
I agree.
everybody knew that Soros is behind a lot of this stuff. Everybody knows what he's doing. Day one, someone should have started the RICO investigation.
Yeah.
It should by now be well underway, and maybe it is. Maybe it is. Maybe we don't know. But where is the action on this? I mean, Soros is still moving full steam ahead. Announce that he's being investigated for RICO. Announce that you're going to be looking for extradition. Announce that. Now, you can argue with me strategically, and a lot of lawyers will say, you never do that on a prosecution. Well, if the guy is disrupting our country, if he's funding riots and chaos and all this stuff that's happening, then yeah, maybe you do. Maybe you dissuade him by making an announcement.
Well, yeah. Don't you tell the victim of the crime when their perpetrator is being prosecuted? I mean, don't you always say that? And we're the victim of his crimes. We're the
Well,
victims. So why wouldn't you tell us we're taking care of this? It's not like it's just a public thing. We're the victims.
I would argue 100% that we're the victims.
Yeah.
You've got these billionaires and these globalists and these politicians that were all screwing kids on Epstein Island, and no one's even considering putting them in jail. No one's doing anything about it.
Yeah.
It's monumental to me that we're still dragging our feet on this. There are some of these are easy, open and shut type cases. Listen, we all, and I'm sorry, if they release the Epstein files and there is not some open and shut, yep, here's videos, this famous person doing this with this kid, they're going to jail, then we know that it was whitewashed, right? We know there were politicians, we know there were celebrities, and we know that there were billionaires.
Sure.
We also believe that there was at least one member of the royal family that Trump is now talking about partnering with. So here's the deal. Where are the prisons at? When are we going after these people? When is this going to happen? I want to see if Prince Andrew was hooking up with kids. I want to see us asking for extradition so he can go to jail.
Right.
That's what I want to see. When we see that sort of thing happening, I'll feel like I'm frustrated at the lack of action. Now, here's why I ask this and how this ties to the greater show. When we look at DOGE and we start cutting the money and we start doing some of these things that start breaking the machine, one of the things I want to think about is what happens. And I want to bring up a couple issues throughout this show like that, and I want to then ask the what happens, right? So Charity, being a huge, big shot, super high-powered GOP political figure that you are.
Funny. You're funny.
We know that, and listen, we know that a lot of these crooks that were doing this were Democrats, but there were some Republicans that were on the Epstein list. No question about that.
Absolutely.
That's when that comes out, as that comes out, we're talking about a pretty major disruption to the political world, to the economic world, all these different things. On the political side, what do you think? What do you think happens when we start prosecuting, senators or Congress people, D or R? Because I don't care if you're doing something with a kid, you should be in jail. What happens when we start doing that? What do you think? What happens with the GOP, DNC?
I think that people see who people are. So if you're a Republican and you're doing that, you have already said that you're somebody you're not. They're always campaigning to be a different person than they actually are. And so I think it needs to be out there. Our biggest problem in this country is not the Democrats. It is the rhino Republicans that are pretending to be somebody of character and integrity that aren't. And so if they're exposed, I'm all for it. I don't care who they are. We relationship is not more important than what's righteous. And
Wait a
if you're
second. You just got yourself fired from the RNC. Party over everything. I thought it's party over everything.
party is not over everything, righteousness over everything. Righteousness.
Oh my gosh.
I
Principle over
know.
party, you're going to get
I
fired.
know. Yeah. What
You're
do you say,
clearly the
right?
wrong person for the job. See, this is what I say. There's the
I'm telling
only
you,
honest member of the GOP in the country.
that's really not true. Most Republicans agree with me. Even the ones in the RNC agree with me. Most of them are good people that have high moral character. And
We
if
need to
there is,
start having them on the show because I need to see it. I'm
we're
gonna
going
need
to
to
do
see
it.
it.
We're going to do it.
We'll keep a running count. Like every show, we'll have producer Andrea. We'll ever get like a counter, and like
Okay.
like
Here
we'll
we
start
go.
bringing in different RNC members,
There we
and
go.
we'll get a counter, and then like every time we'll just leave like, okay, we can put one more in the counter, and it'll like tick up. It'd be like, yeah, it'd be the honest members of the RNC, the confirmed honest members of the
I think
RNC counter.
there's quite a few honest members. There really are.
You
They're good
think? I
people.
don't know. You think? I
I
think if
think,
we
but
just
I can tell you, even if it was somebody that was a friend that's on the Epstein list, and I thought they were honest and they weren't, I say we put it out there. Then they're pretending to be somebody they're not. I
well, if you're doing this stuff with kids, but this is the thing, right? So what happens though? But I mean, now we're starting to talk about disruption. So you've got this finely tuned global machine, right? They're telling us that our politicians are great. They're telling us that we have to fund all these things. They're not telling us what we're funding. They're not telling us that our money's going to fund the university system in Australia, and trans issues and with the Taliban and Afghanistan. And I mean, they're not telling us what the money's going for, but we're funding this all over the place. We start pulling money from this and we start exposing these people for what they are. You're going to see the whole system start collapsing. Where does that leave us, right? I mean, what happens when this system of control and I mean, listen, we're not funding these foreign nations for no reason. The CIA is doing it to get leverage over different things. I mean, and they're kind of running the show.
Well, I think that system needs to collapse if that's what's happening, and I don't think it collapses. I think it collapses. What's going to collapse is people's trust in public figures. That's what's going to collapse. But the system doesn't have to collapse. What it will do is put a standard for righteousness in place where people understand that they'll be found out, and that if they're doing these things, we shouldn't have to pay the price. They should be worrying about what if, not us.
Yeah.
And if they're thrown to the side, so be it. Let's move on. We'll find somebody better.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't shaking up the system. That sounds a little scary to me. You're not
I
sounding
think
very Republican right now.
that's what
Hey,
needs to happen.
well, so let's talk about this, right? So we cut
Okay.
this. We've now we've cut funding, right? DOGE is exposing all sorts of funding issues.
Okay.
And we've seen a little bit of a cutback on different things, and some stuff is still there. Now, one of the things that I'm doing some work on, I'm doing with Global Wellness Forum, is chemtrails.
Okay.
Chemtrails, right? Which obviously are fake, right? So I've got a nice little video here. I'm going to show you this video. What this is not a chemtrail, folks. I want to show you this video of what a chemtrail is not. Now, you see, this is from an airplane. I see another airplane. And this plane is not spraying anything.
No,
What
nothing
you're
out of there.
There's nothing. This is condensation from the airplane flying through. It is not. This is not a chemtrail in any way, shape, or form. There's just a lot of condensation only coming from a couple parts of the airplane, but definitely not a chemtrail, right? So your eyes are deceiving you. That is just a totally natural thing that happens all over the place. Now I posted this in response to this, right? So my buddy Sayer puts out that Kennedy is, talking about the geoengineering, and he is. And you see that there are, I think, 25 states now actively pushing chemtrail bills. Well, that's really interesting, by the way, because chemtrails are a conspiracy theory, As you can see here, they're not real. Since they're not real, why would states be doing that? Now, I wanted to also show you, we're going to scroll down live because I'm doing this in real time. These chemtrails are definitely not real. Here you can see some more not real chemtrails. Now, by the way, I'm old. So how many of you guys remember the skies looking like this when you were kids? Charity, did they invent airplanes when you were a child?
Yeah, I'm not that old, despite what my kids think.
Yeah, same for me. There were airplanes. You know what there wasn't? This.
Yeah.
This did not exist when I was a child. These chemtrails that they're telling me are not real. Well, I mean, I'm having a hard time with it. Now, here's another one that I did. This one's actually a pretty important. Now, this is not a chemtrail, right? This is what you're seeing is an optical illusion and lies brought on by alternative media outlets and Breaker 9 or something. This is not a chemtrail. And you can see.
You thought I didn't see you now, didn't you? You try to sneak
A chemtrail, not the chemtrail. No chemtrail here. The music was an important thing, but not a chemtrail, right?
Yeah.
So these are things that are. And then I posted this, by the way. This is also. This is the CIA one of the documents from the CIA that was released in the Kennedy files. And one of the things that they're talking about is operations that would agricultural sabotage. Wow. And how they can, use biological agents or chemical agents that would appear to be of a natural origin. So if you were to spray something in the sky that appeared to be of a natural origin and, it was having a negative impact. That's not that this is a CIA plan or anything or plot. What happens? Well, first of all, do you want to debunk my conspiracy theory?
Well, I was really surprised. I brought these chemtrails up in a meeting I was speaking at just last week, and I had a woman ask me to prove it. I didn't know there were people walking around on the planet that didn't understand what was happening. I surround myself with people who are critical thinkers and that look things up. And so none of my friends are mainstream media followers. And so I was really surprised to find out that there's people in the world that aren't seeing the truth on this. It's sick. So they're poisoning our air and our food through our clothing. How they're poisoning our air, which also, and trying to mess with the crops for the food. It's,
well, what do you think glyphosate is?
Exactly. And then tell you it's global warming.
Well, it's definitely global warming. But don't worry. Grumpy Greta has explained to us about the global, and the Israeli scientists have a solution though. They're going to deploy a giant parachute in the sky that's going to block out the sun in space, which I'm sure is a great idea. Did you see this?
No, I didn't. I don't. They've been lying to us about that too. The sun is good for you. My children do not put sunscreen on. The sun is good for you. The sunscreen
causes cancer.
Exactly. It's insane. Like they've just been lying to us for so long. Okay, so are you going to show us this? Do you have something on the balloon?
You want to see the balloon?
I do. So they're going to block out the sun.
You didn't know this? Hold on.
No, I didn't see that. I think my husband was telling me about it, but I didn't look it up.
Yeah, let me show you this. Let's see here. Israeli scientists.
Wow.
Blocking the sun.
Which is probably
that brings it up.
Oh, hey, producer Andrea is with us.
Oh, producer Andrea is here.
I had to jump in. Can you hear me okay?
Of course, you sound
Okay,
wonderful.
the only thing I wanted to say about the Israeli thing is when you read this, and he'll bring it up, Charity, what's fascinating is in all the research I did, they end with, so the Israeli scientists are trying to block out the sun, could impact the entire globe. Like, duh. Like, what are you talking about? you're only gonna block your sun. You're not gonna block the sun for everyone. So they're gonna go block the sun, and they are acting as if they can do whatever they want. It's going to impact the globe. Duh. Like,
why would anybody want to? Why would you think that's a good idea? That's awful. That will affect every life form. What is wrong?
As Americans, we need to not just say, look at what the Israeli, government's doing or scientists are doing, whoever's funding it. We're funding it. We had this tech. So we funded this research. I think it was Harvard, right, Tom? We talked about this years ago, I feel like.
We've been doing this
Bill Gates was doing this, but again, go back to DOGE and all this crazy funding. We were funding it in our universities. Again, you can track it all back to us starting these great ideas. And then when you see it years later taking off in other parts of the world. But it started here.
Wow.
Bill Gates has been talking about this blocking of the sun for a long time. And I think it was Harvard that was putting tons of money into the research.
Does he not understand this is going to affect him as well? This isn't just screwing us. This is going to screw all of life.
He doesn't care. He doesn't care. Here you go. So geoengineering, right? Because this is fake, right? Except for here's University of Minnesota, where you can get a major in it.
Yeah.
You can get a graduate certificate, Arizona, Harvard, solar geoengineering program. At Princeton, geological engineering. I mean, it's fake, right? Fake news. Fake news. There's no such thing as geoengineering except for, but here's the Israeli thing, right? Israeli plan to stop global warming. They're going to deploy a giant foil sheet over the equator to deflect sunlight and lower the Earth's temperature. What could possibly go wrong? Now, here's the thing. Here's what the foil sheet apparently looks like. Apparently, they're going to fly up, I don't know, a bazillion pounds of aluminum, Reynolds wrap aluminum foil, and wrap the entire planet in it at a cost of about $30 trillion.
So nothing bad can happen from putting metal into space and blocking
to block the sun.
What an idiot. I mean,
this is the movie Idiocracy, where they talk about what plants crave.
Yeah. Yes.
This is what we're living. But what it is Gatorade, right? It's just corruption. I mean, we believe, I know
30
all of
trillion.
us here. Yeah. I mean, we believe in the plan to it has to be depopulation and nefarious at its core. But what happens with the global warming thing is it's just money. It's money being moved around for evil people to take and do whatever they want with, and they don't care if it hurts us.
They want it to hurt us.
Yeah,
that's
the point. Yeah,
right.
Well, they don't care, because if they have $30 trillion, it'll hurt us. It ain't going to hurt them. They can buy, if the whole world goes into a global freeze, they're just going to buy heaters because they can afford them. This is monumentally stupid. This is just incredible. But this is what we've got, right? That it's we versus thee, right?
Yes.
For them, a few of those useless eaters die. So what? But meanwhile, how are you going to grow crops? How are you going to grow crops if you block sunlight around the equator?
They don't want us growing crops.
I love what Autumn Smith said. She said they're using tinfoil, but we are the tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists.
and this stuff isn't new. It's another thing. So the geoengineering stuff has been going on. I mean, what were some of the reports we were seeing, Tom? Wasn't it? I mean, back in the 60s, weren't they publishing
they started
reports
talking about it in the 1800s, and then the first actions were taken around World War II.
Yep.
We've had laws, and they deployed this, right? So we actually used in the Vietnam War, and this is documented, government documents. So you can't argue with the government; they'd never lie. But they actually, during Vietnam, they used geoengineering as a weapon of war. They actually overseeded the clouds in Vietnam to block troop movement. It rained so much in the jungles that they couldn't move the troops, and it was a tactic. It was actually a war tactic. Now, in theory, they're not supposed to be doing that sort of stuff anymore in the wars and stuff. But
Sure.
I mean, I'm sure the CIA just quit doing that stuff because it was illegal. Because the CIA never does anything illegal.
Right. That was the standards, whether it was legal. Sure.
Yeah.
Well, and I grew up in the mountains in the Sierra Nevadas, on the West Coast near Lake Tahoe. And my mom told me about this when I was a kid. She would go, "Oh, we'd have these crazy storms," and she'd go, "Oh, they must have been cloud seeding." And I thought, my mom is just crazy. Another one of her crazy conspiracy theories. But then it comes full circle. I become an adult and I'm working on a campaign where they start bringing in environmental experts talking to us about this, and they take us up into the mountains and show us the snow that's been engineered, and how you can tell the difference between the engineered snow and natural snow. And we have, if you look into the money that goes into the research for this, the university nearest me has a whole building research center for this type of scientific experimentation to occur. So you cannot tell us it's not happening when we're actually paying for it. Your tax dollars are paying for it.
Wow.
Yep. So here's the good news, right? So, and I had someone ask me about this last night, and I had to explain to them. They said, well, someone said, hey, wouldn't it make more sense if this was being done? They said, we can't find anywhere that they're doing this in our government. So wouldn't it make more sense if this was from the World Economic Forum and the NGOs? And the answer is, of course it would. And it is. But, let me show you this. This is very important. This is Tulsi Gabbard. And climate change was dropped from the annual threat assessment. Why does that matter? Well, this is a phenomenally important thing. And that's why there's some Democrats having a conniption over this. See, what Biden did was Biden called climate change a national security threat. When that happened, that allowed our military, our CIA, our DIA, our intel agencies, HHS or DHS, to all start taking actions under the guise of national security to stop climate change. That could, and this is when I say could, understand something. There are a lot of laws that have been passed that reference or discuss or could open the door to geoengineering without explicitly mentioning it, right? They talk about innovation and stopping climate change, things like that. Now, those are indirect references to geoengineering activities. But by doing this as a national security issue, what they did was they prevent you from being able to track what they're doing, right? So they call it a national security situation. Well, you can't FOIA the CIA. You can't FOIA the military. So then they get funding to deal with this national security threat. And by the way, NASA was even included. Remember when Biden sick NASA on this? So you've got all these guys working on geoengineering and climate change. And then what happens is the intel community through USAID funds all these climate change initiatives around the world. The Paris Climate Accord and Biden approving that, or signing on to that, fulfilled that. And then the Green New Deal funded it. So then what we did was we shipped billions of dollars all over the planet to all these NGOs. And then our government, through national security, so everybody said, well, how comes, these planes that look like they're cloud seeding, we can't find them on the radar system or the flight tracker system? Because they're frequently foreign-owned or private-owned planes that are being allowed to do what they're doing through national security mechanisms, right? So this is being done by NGOs, WF, all these bad guys are definitely involved. But what they're doing is they're doing it through these national security, the military, right? Through military industrial, through the CIA, through deals that are covert, that are off book, that you can't track, you can't FOIA. That's why they're saying this isn't happening. It's absolutely happening. Look up. right?
Right.
Look up. You don't have to be a genius to figure out this is happening. What you have to be smart to figure out is how they're doing it with with plausible deniability. Well, that's how it's being done. And so understand that the mechanism by which chemtrails are occurring and being funded and the way that this is happening is complex, and it's money funded through things like the Green New Deal.
Yep.
And authorized through a number of different laws and executive orders, and then enabled or actually facilitated through foreign NGOs and public-private partnerships that are not of record, right? So it's a very complicated thing, but they can deny it all they want. Like I said, look up.
But what you just explained is emergency use. If they keep us in a state of an emergency, they can break laws and destroy our Constitution and ignore just basic human rights. It's crimes against humanity that's been allowed through emergency use authorization. If they keep us in an emergency, and so that's why I keep when we talk about the geoengineering and the chemtrails, I always go back to the fact that we know now. I mean, I pray that it just keeps expanding more and more, that there is no global warming. Okay. Scientists everywhere are saying this has been a crock of baloney for a long time. The hole in the ozone layer was crazy as well, because we know so little about our Earth. And scientists are saying, listen, this is natural evolution. This is not us creating these changes. This is most likely natural changes happening. Global warming was a farce. And it was, again, created to create this fake emergency and to just pad the pockets of evil people everywhere to do whatever they want. Now, if we say that it sounds like they're saying global warming was a complete nothing, right? And was a lie the entire time. It's fascinating to me, the people who were fed that lie so easily, but they cannot digest the chemtrail to me. When you see how this is politicized, if you care about the environment, okay? You care about the environment, so that's why you cared about global warming. You believed that. But you cannot believe geoengineering. That is a hard one for me. I don't understand. If you care about the environment, you care about what's going on in the skies. If you thought global, so that's why I always call him Grumpy Greta. Hey, Grumpy Greta, you lost your job because that was a lie. You were lied to. How about you jump on the geoengineering train? How about you care about the chemtrails? How about you care about them trying to block out the sun? Because that will negatively impact the environment. Why are these people not shifting gears? If they actually genuinely care about the environment, why are they not thinking that the spray that you can see in the sky is real? It's because it's obviously politicized, and it's like a mind control game. They're told that this is the truth and they believe it, but that this is not the truth. How can you believe in global warming but not geoengineering?
But we have a million examples like that. There are so many people that just feed however the mainstream media tells them to think, they just do. And they go with the wind, whichever way. I mean, look, they were telling us that we were communists for not buying electric vehicles. Now they're wanting to blow up Tesla. Like, we have a million examples, right? Abortion, it's right to your own body, unless you're talking about a vaccine that's not even been approved. There are so many examples. They're not consistent because they're just puppets, and there's no critical thinking. And that goes back to the school system.
Yes.
The school systems had this whole Common Core theory that took critical thinking out. They made people just not question the narrative. And
with global warming, what cracks me up is I would always say, wow, it's still warm in August and cold in January. And in my life, I really didn't see any global warming occurring. Okay.
Right.
Now, with geoengineering, I see it. We can see it. It's insane. I mean, it's hard for me that they can be fed so many lies that are just absolute lies. There's no facts. There's no reality to it. But yet we're sitting here being poisoned, and they don't care about the fluoride. I mean, there are a lot of liberal friends that I've had that have been teasing me about my attack on fluoride for over a decade now. I've been talking about how fluoride is poison for a long time. And even on Parks and Rec, I don't know if you guys remember that show. Parks and Rec did an entire episode on how fluoride was great, but all these wackadoodle conservatives were telling us it was bad. I mean, mainstream Hollywood got behind the fluoride thing.
Well, the CIA's been using this in mainstream Hollywood
Yes.
for a long time. So
Yes, exactly. But I mean, just in the last 10 years of
Yeah.
our lives, we can see how this occurred. So I'm a crazy person for telling you, watch out for the fluoride, keep the fluoride away from your children. I'm crazy for saying, hey, see how the skies get sprayed and then the weather seems to be modified by it. And look at all these facts about geoengineering. But they are completely righteous in the fact that global warming is occurring, which
Well, you
there's
told
no
us.
scientific backing to it whatsoever.
You told us that your mother was telling you about this when you were a kid, so the apple does not fall far from the tree.
You guys. Yeah, well, that's probably true. So in 2023, Stockholm International Peace Research Institute reported that U.S. military spending was $916 billion. So that's 2023. This was 40% of global military expenditures. Okay. So this included $40 billion in military assistance to Ukraine, and then a bunch of other things, right? In 2024, we did 86 billion through the National Defense Authorization Act, another 95 billion for a supplemental package, 61 billion for Ukraine, 17 billion for Israel, 8 billion for Taiwan. And I mean, that adds up to quite a bit more than 916 billion. So, it keeps going up, right? Now, within that money number, you're seeing these kind of global influence operations that are occurring everywhere, and the lies and these manipulations. You want to know how you can do chemtrails with no one being able to find a paper trail? That's how, right? When you authorize these things under the law, when you tell the military that they can spend on it, work on it, do whatever on it, and then you give the military $1 trillion to play with every year. Well, yeah, it's going to happen. And so that's kind of where we're at on things. Is these things are continuing to happen. I mean, we just passed a continuing resolution to keep spending at current levels until I think October. Now, between now and then, I want to know what's going to happen, because all I'm seeing is lawsuits against Trump and things stopping. I'm not seeing anything get done. I don't see Congress doing a damn thing. What's going to happen between now and then? What's going to change? How are we going to get somewhere new? What's going to happen that's going to facilitate us actually getting some of this stuff handled or managed? Because I'm not seeing it right now, to be honest. Right now, what I'm seeing is a whole lot of talk, but not a whole lot of action. And we don't have that much time.
That's what I was going to say too. We don't have 4 years, guys. It's not 4 years.
No, we've got less than 2. We got 1.5 years.
And really, when it comes to the political cycle, we talked to the rep in Georgia, Charity, and I'd love to bring her on Tom's show as well. But, like she was saying, we've got like 10 months, maybe. It's like this year. It's like right now. And so the reason for your urgency, Tom, and why it's so valid is right now we have the best shot at getting some of this stuff done. And we will lose this window of opportunity if we don't get active and get aggressive and get passionate about these issues.
Well, what happens globally, though?
Yeah.
So if we've got, you're looking at 2025, we're looking at 1 to 1.5 trillion in military spending. What happens if we rein that into, $500 billion like it ought to be? What happens if we shift that up? What happens on a global basis, right? Because of that 1 to 1.5 trillion, a good solid portion of that is used to basically control people around the world and to buy their whatever, their silence, their whatever. Now, the devaluation of the dollar is making that money a lot less valuable. But what happens if we pull that? What happens if we quit doing that? What happens globally? In terms of stability, in terms of wars, in terms of everything, what happens to that? Now, I think, the global warming, the chemtrails, all these different things are tied to it. But, what happens if we're like, hell no, we're done with this, right? What happens if we pull our influence on a global basis? Where does that leave us? Does that leave us more or less likely to be in a war? what's going to happen elsewhere? What's going to happen at that point?
Yeah, I don't
Just
know.
curious. I don't have an answer. I'm just curious. I mean, what do you ladies think?
There's a
Me
number
too.
of possibilities. I don't. I'm not sure how it plays out. I told you a story a while back where I just take steps and I refuse to fear it. I don't know what we walk it. What we don't do is continue the way it's going on and let it lie. That's what we
No.
don't do.
I I don't fear. I mean, extending it out to October. I mean, we joke all the time. Shut it down. Shut it down. Shut it
Yep.
all down. Let's see what happens if we shut it down for a while and fix this stuff. And I mean, basically, what happened with like the USAID fraud. I mean, I was just watching. I've actually watched several videos of African leaders. Leaders all over the continent talking about how shutting down the USAID funding that they were getting is good for their communities. And you're talking about very poor areas. And they're saying they don't want that money going into their communities anymore because it was doing more harm than it was doing good. And when you think about how much money actually reached them, and then when it actually reached them, it went to the corruption in their areas too. It wasn't going to the people. They weren't doing what they were going to say with the money. I don't trust that anyone's doing what they say they're doing with the money and that it's going to any real humanitarian crisis and helping real people. And when those areas come out and say, you know what, we're actually happy that our USAID funding stopped, that should be a huge wake-up call to Americans to not fear the fact that we need to flip this table over. Stopping the funding, if these poor areas are saying they're happy that the funding's stopping, it wasn't helping us, then we need to stop it and reevaluate all of it and make sure there's transparency and this funding is going to what it's supposed to be going to. We're not helping the world, clearly. We're not making world peace with giving out trillions of dollars to these communities. No, we are padding the pockets of the evil globalists for their agendas, clearly, or else those communities would have gone up and said, no, Elon's going to destroy our communities. They're not saying that in those areas. They're saying this needs to stop. It's not working. It's evil, it's corrupt, and it's making the world corrupt all around. It's not doing what they're not doing what they're saying they're doing with our money. Period. So I don't
100%.
I don't fear cutting that stuff off. I don't.
Well, I know that there's one thing that we can all agree on, and that is any funding cuts that we do are obviously racist. We saw that. One of the things that we saw was that. One of the things out there right now, and it's kind of we're coming up on the end of the show, and I just want to end with this because this is very, very serious. We want to end on a very serious note. And so you can all leave sad and unhappy. But apparently, according to Twitter, recent discussions have emerged suggesting weight loss plans may be less effective for Black women compared to their white counterparts due to systemic factors including racism and economic challenges. Now,
how is that not the most racist statement ever?
Well, now this woman is apparently having some trouble because the diet was racist, and it looks like it must have been very racist against her at least, because she looks like she ate the diet, and anybody else that was promoting it. But apparently this woman says that the diets are racist. And it's racist because of, hold on, what is it? Racism and economic challenges. So I like the carnivore diet, and I'm curious. I need you to help me. So I want to keep Fatty McFatness up here, Grimace's sister up here for a minute while we're talking about. So as we look at this, I like the carnivore diet, and that diet basically says eat meat and good fats and don't eat carbs or junk food or Twinkies or ho-hos or ding-dongs or anything of that sort. Now, I'm curious, when I talk about that, is it the meat that's racist? Mm-hmm. Or is it the butter? Or maybe it's the Twinkies? Or maybe it's just that she ate them all?
The food
Am I
is
missing something here? What's the racist part of this? I'm not getting. I mean, is Grimace's sister here? Let's get back here. Here, let's listen to Grimace's sister.
What is she saying?
Oh, it's very important. This is very important. Yeah, I'll educate you all.
Yeah.
The same diets as white women, we lose less weight and we lose it slower, even when we're following the diet than our white women counterparts. It's literally that the racism that you're experiencing and the struggle to make ends meet actually means the diet don't work for you the same.
So Grimace's sister is really mad because the diet doesn't work the same for her because of the racism she's experiencing.
That's insane.
Do you burn?
I just can't even. I don't. Wow.
I'm just
curious. So recently we talked on the show. There was also this great
Look
racist.
her face here. Look at her face.
That's a great pausing point.
She's
this
getting ready for a Twinkie.
Racist. Two professors, I think, out of San Diego State area. And they were actually plotting racist locations in our country, like the soil and the rocks and the trees can be racist. So I mean, we've been tracking this racist.
So the trees are racist. Are you telling me trees are racist?
I'll send you the article about the research that was being done. And they were getting paid to travel and make note of what areas were racist.
Did we cut those trees down at least? Can someone please tell me?
What with the rocks that are racist? I mean, you can't cut those down. What do you do with those?
There's racist areas. But I say that just because what's wild about this stuff is we're funding it. Like there are professors in our universities that are getting paid, again, your tax dollars, to do this type of research and to put this stuff in people's heads.
But it's very important.
Food is racist. And you know what's wild? Look, what you just said about the carnivore diet is I just wrote a piece for Dan Lyons, and he was talking about fasting and, diabetes, insulin. And when you're pre-diabetic, you can fast one time a day and it really, really helps it. You could do that instead of taking drugs. It'll heal you because you're changing the insulin response in your body and you're fixing the broken receptors. So what I wanted to see is, does she talk about science? So is she going to say that biologically, scientifically, she's different inside? Does she have like a different insulin makeup than a white woman? No, she doesn't say.
She ate the insulin, all of it.
It's just,
and it was racist when she ate it. It was that insulin that she ate was. But if you look at this, it's really important because we can evaluate this. So here you see Grimace, Grimace's sister. And if you don't know who Grimace is, just search McDonald's Grimace.
Did you look at the crowd while she was talking, though? No one was doing this.
Well,
everyone was like,
we're going to get to that right here. So
I don't feel like anyone's giving her a high five right now.
And the diet wasn't racist for her.
Like, I don't know about that.
For this woman, the diet was not racist at all because she's not fat. This woman, the diet was very racist for because she ate the diet. Now, if we go in here, we go a little farther. There's Grimace's sister. She's grumpy. Now, this woman, she's like, oh, man, that diet was racist for you. But she's thinking to herself, I hope it doesn't get racist for me because I'm not a fat pig right now. And now
they don't seem to be agreeing with her. Does it change? Do they start agreeing with her?
They aren't. I don't think they are. Now, if we get here, she agrees.
Does she? She wasn't shaking her head up and down.
I think she was
like, yeah, but she's not doing one of these.
Well, I don't know. Maybe does she agree or not? I mean,
I don't play it. How was she reacting? Play it right there.
Let's see here. Let's play.
I'm telling you, she didn't look like she was agreeing.
You guys are mean. I'm just saying, you guys are both mean, especially you, Tom. You are mean. I am not saying any of these things. I am not talking about that poor woman. It is crazy that she is racist, but you are a bully. Oh my gosh.
How am I mean? I'm not being mean. I'm just accurately discussing what's occurring here.
Oh my God.
I mean, she's telling me the damn diet's racist. What's racist about a diet?
I agree with you on that. That's messed up.
Food is racist. Oh, but we could
if you don't want to be a dumb A, don't act like a dumb A. And I won't call you a dumb A. I mean, listen.
But let's talk about
ridiculous.
Bobby Kennedy and us talking about the food stamp program and how they've been trying. He wants to get all the junk off of it.
Off the food stamp program because she drank it all.
But he wants to get all of that off of it. And they're fighting. You know who fights against this? It's not race. It's the companies that make this junk food.
Oh, yeah.
They don't want to be cut off of that program.
Look at this.
Yeah, they're going to be mad about that. Yeah.
Right? So when you talk about the food stamp program and stuff like this, you got people like this who are opposing removing soda.
Exactly. Why are they opposing?
Why would you oppose it?
Yeah.
Now, I'm guessing that this woman, I mean, she's on TV. I don't know. Maybe she's rich. Maybe she's not. I don't know whether she needs help or not. And it's okay. I don't even mind helping people eat. But why would I provide them with sugary crap that's bad for them? And this woman's out. This is the kind of person who advocate, no, you can't take soda off the food stamp program. By the way, diets are racist. What? This is absurdity on every level.
But the government has made this absurdity. So they want us to fight each other. They want us to call everything racist. But they're poisoning us. And you got to figure out who the man is, who the enemy is, and why they're coming after you. And it's not a race issue. It's not a race issue, but she has been lied to. We've all been lied to about our diet and our nutrition. And they have been poisoning us and been telling us what's good for us is junk. For 100 years now, they've been lying to us about so Maha. I say Maha, but anyone who thinks food is racist has gone completely insane.
That's true.
Well,
that's
I'm going to just tell you, that sort of nonsense is just insane. And you see these people who will whine about diets are racist, but don't touch my soda on the food stamp program. Diets are racist, but you're racist for telling me to exercise. That's nonsense. You want to get in shape, quit eating, and get to work.
We paid for research. We covered this on the show probably 2 years ago. We paid for research out of a university who came out and said telling people to exercise is racist.
Yeah,
they have said that.
That's a great show. We should revisit
that. Was a great show. We should.
Yeah,
we are racist.
Charity, you should if we like that one. That one's good for your political career. If we do that show,
check that.
Anyways, we gotta quit. We saved the fun stuff for last. So anyway, we gotta call her a day. Everybody, thank you all for watching. Thank you, Charity, for being there. Thank you, producer Andrea. We will be back very soon.